What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, Arkansas is 6 practices in, took their first off day on Wednesday, and we're back at it in full pads today. So we're going to discuss a little bit about what we've seen so far through 6 practices. I've been at all of them, roughly 30 minutes per practice that we have access to. Of course, I sit in the front row asking questions at every press conference. I think we've had 7 of those so far. So we'll break down some of that. We'll get to your questions as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. I hope the mic isn't too hot today. We changed over to a new StreamYard studio, and for some reason it reset the mic, and we were coming off a little bit hot. So let me know in the description or something in the comments if we're clipping a little bit. Plenty of ways to watch and listen, always on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe to the channel, set it to where you're notified anytime we upload new videos. Give us that 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to have that. Hog Sports is the #1 rated and most reviewed podcast about Arkansas. So hopefully we're not hot. I'll tell you what is hot, and that is the Crain team. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a new vehicle, the Crain service team the Crain team service centers offer the latest vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Try to say that 3 times fast. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team. I can't get off the website. Like, ever since I've been looking at them, like I'm looking at it right now, there's 5,395 vehicles available, 16 locations throughout the state. So a lot of options at Crain Automotive. So first things first, Hog Sports right now is 50% off, by the way, for a limited time. So you can join the #1 independent source on Arkansas sports, recruiting, transfer portal, and everything else Razorbacks for half the regular rate. You get unmatched insider Razorback coverage for the equivalent of $1.15 a week, $5 a month, and billed at just $60 for the entire year. Offer ends soon. So sign up. It's part of our fall camp coverage. We want you to come check out where you have the best Razorback coverage anywhere. Like I said before, I've been to every practice. I sit in the front row for all the press conferences, firing off questions. The most interesting thing that happened today, we're sitting downstairs, and I go into the touchdown club, which is over by the media room, and there's a bunch of cheerleaders and whatever cheer squads down there, and they're like taking pictures and doing videos and stuff like that. And they have a fog machine. Well, I get up, start walking. I think I'm going to the bathroom at this point, and suddenly the alarm goes off. An emergency has been, it's like that robotic speaking. Please exit the facility now through a fire escape, or do not use the elevators, and all this stuff. And so, yeah, they set off a fire alarm. And I mean, it went for like 20 minutes of this repeating. And, the cheerleaders have like a Razorback sign and stuff and a Razorback cutout, and they're like trying to get the smoke away, but the damage is done. Somebody's got to turn the thing off. The fire department shows up, and they have to turn the thing off. So I'm sure that's probably not cheap to have the fire department come. And yeah, so that happened today. This was right before the press conference. So a little bit of interest. I didn't know what had happened at first. I was like, should I use the bathroom first, or do I have time? Do I need to get out of here? So at practice today, again, day 6, we didn't get to see a whole lot. I feel like my title might have been a little bit misleading, but I created that already. They didn't ever hit. Like, it was never offense versus defense, never one-on-ones or anything like that. They were just in full pads during the time we were out there. In fact, when they started going to one-on-one stuff is when we were ushered out. So we only get like 30 minutes. There were scouts today from Cincinnati Bengals, Tampa Bay Bucks, New York Jets, and the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. And also, we're looking over there, and I was like, that's Dick Bumpus. That's an important A and somebody's last name, by the way. You can say it yourself if you want. But Dick Bumpus is out there, former Razorback, Arkansas Hall of Fame honor inductee, longtime defensive coordinator at TCU. He was there from 2004 to 2015, so long time there. And also was at Kansas State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, some of the other places, but most notably known for his 17 years under Gary Patterson at TCU. He was at Arkansas, too. I think in 1989 he was defensive line coach at Arkansas. He was also a grad assistant for a little bit. So I don't know if he was there speaking. I forgot to ask Eric Mateos that, but he was there observing at least. I saw Sam Pittman over there talking to him for a little bit. So that was cool. Green went 4-4 today in the fastball. That was I guess the only opportunity we got to see them go, actually hitting and stuff. And they've been physical before. They've had shoulder pads on for a few days. It's just they were, got the full leg pads, got the full gear on today. But we were able to see them, go 11 on 11 for 12 plays, four with the first team offense. Taylor Green went 4-4 for about 75 yards. One of those was a 50-yard seam over the middle, like a slot seam to Raylan Sharp, where Jordan Young did something wrong. I don't know if he was misaligned or messed up on his responsibility, but Raylan Sharp was wide open over the middle of the field, caught it about 20 yards downfield, and went the rest of the way for a touchdown. KJ Jackson was 1 of 2, and Trevor Jackson was 2 of 2. Those were the quarterbacks. We put out a depth chart every practice where they go 11 on 11, and I think people get kind of misinterpret. I think like if you spread it out over a period of time and put them all together, you probably could gain a better idea of what the depth chart is. And I want to talk about what I think the depth chart is here in a little bit. But if I think, if you like extrapolate it, but like looking at it day to day, you're going to come up with a lot of alterations because they're experimenting and stuff. So I will say, like, when we come out with like the fastball depth chart, don't overanalyze it. Like Braylon Russell didn't go out the first day with the first, second, or third team. And I must have got hammered with, where's Braylon Russell? Is Braylon Russell out? It's a part of the team, And I try to make sure we put that out there that this is what's going on. So I thought this was cool. Eric Mateos is always great at the podium. I knew he'd be great. I hit our team up. I hit Kevin and Danny up, and of course Connor, who's always on it. On the beat, on that particular beat. But, I told Danny and Kevin, I was like, hey, we need a little extra day. Mateos is going, there's a lot to discuss on offensive line. Mateos, as somebody said in the comments, opened up with like, I don't have a lot to say, and then went on to talk for 29 minutes, the rest of the press conference. But he always delivers such great information, and I don't even know that he knows like how much good stuff he's given us sometimes. He's just talking and stuff. And, thought he did a great job. One of the things that we talked about today was just the future of the offensive line. They brought in 3 guys, Blake Cherry, Cash Courtney, and LJ Prudhomme. And he thinks for him, it's only his second year at Arkansas coming up. But in his coaching tenure, I think he's at Baylor, and then he was at BYU before that. But he thinks it's the best freshman class that he's recruited just for their talent, their ability to absorb everything. That's what he's really been blown away. Kobe Branham said Cash Courtney's going to be a 4-year starter at Arkansas. So that's encouraging to hear, especially when you look at the way things were last year. Last year was frustrating because basically, as he said, Joe Moore is the backup for every position, and Joe Moore is a 7th-year senior who's not going to have a chance to start. There were no guys on the backup offensive line who are future starters, except for possibly Kobe Branham, and we didn't really know that for sure because he was only a true freshman. That's the shape that the offensive line was in. In fact, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but I wrote an article last year, and I'm going to talk about it because Eric Mateos gives a great example of a great, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Just remembering about an article that I wrote, and it's in the press conference, and I've got a clip of it I want to show you here in a second. But first, I want to talk to you about Bet Saracen. Bet Saracen has Arkansas right now at 3+ regular wins for 1,800, minus 1,800, 5+ for minus 220, and 7+ for plus 250. You can take all these different kinds of things. I think right now the the Vegas would like have it at 5.5. If you want to bet in Arkansas, you got to use a local app like Bet Saracen. But I did want to give a few bets. I'm not going to keep track of these just yet as part of the HawgSports Bet Saracen wager wagon. We're going to do this each week throughout the season, but it is preseason, so I just wanted to give a couple of my thoughts on stuff. Indianapolis Colts versus Baltimore Ravens. I like the Ravens at plus 5.5, just because they seem to keep things close. John Harbaugh is like 76% preseason win rate. Cincinnati Bengals versus Philadelphia Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles in that one. Philadelphia is, I got to check the latest line. So Baltimore is plus 6.5. Philadelphia is plus 5.5. And then Las Vegas, Seattle Seahawks. That is Seattle at plus 5.5. I like the Seahawks in that one. I like the quarterback situation there better. You were going to see backups and stuff. Detroit versus Atlanta. This one is tomorrow. This isn't today, but Detroit versus Atlanta. You've got Atlanta at plus 4.5. And I like Atlanta. Kirk Cousins likely not playing. Michael Penix, I like that. Carolina Panthers versus Cleveland Browns. You've got the Browns at, what's the latest line on this? I've had this up for a little bit. The Browns are plus 5.5. Again, this is tomorrow, not today. I'm going to take the Browns. The under's 34.5, I think. So it looks like maybe a little bit of a defensive game. Anyway, we'll be doing a little bit more in-depth look at some of these as we get into like college games and stuff, things that I'm more of an expert on. But I have looked at these games a little bit in the preseason, and you never know what happens. Please bet responsibly. Gambling should be fun, right? It shouldn't be like you need to feel the sting of defeat to remind you that you're alive, right? It's supposed to be fun. So gamble responsibly, please. All right, let's look at this depth chart real quick. Or should we let's go with, I want to go back to the Mateos deal. So last year, I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. Last year, I wrote an article just about the second team offensive line and what a struggle it is. And this is based on some of the stuff that Eric told me last year, how hard it is to bring in guys, especially with a quick turnaround. You've got returning starters. You say, hey, come into the program. Like, how many guys? It's hard to bring in more than 3 guys. Like, because you got returning starters, all that kind of stuff, plus the quick turnaround. So when I looked at the offensive line last year, I was like, there's 6 guys that could maybe compete to start on this team. And that's it. Like, it just was not. And, you lost one of them. So it was automatically those 5 guys. We all knew who was starting basically when they arrived. There was no competition on the offensive line. And then when I looked at the second group, I'm just like, who is a future starter here? And I wrote a long article about it, breaking it. It was a very popular article. It was very well read, including by Eric Mateos, who checked it out. I believe when he DM'd me, he said, gosh darn, Trey, can you just let me get through one season first? Here's a clip. I don't know if you remember last year, but you talked about the challenges of, and you had a short turnaround also, but the challenges of bringing in, transfer portal offensive linemen when you got guys that have started and stuff. Well, you brought in 4 transfers and Bubba Craig also. I just wanted you to talk about the challenge and I guess the feeling of success that you were able to do that and put together an offensive line that really has – there might have been like 6 guys last year that could have started for you, in my opinion. It might be different for you, but you got a lot of competition now.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. We had pregame meetings last year where it was like, hey, who's the backup right tackle? Joe Moore. Who's the right guard? Joe Moore. Who's the center? Joe Moore. And so we had some of those meetings last year. So it is different. I just think it's your job. You got to have a passion for acquiring talent. You're going to recruit your own sadness or happiness. So you got to go evaluate the players, get the guys you want, know what you're looking for, know what you need. The recipe is never the same year in and year out. Everybody's, the NFL has all their standards, their height, weight, all this stuff, but like personalities matter. Like, hey, I don't have any alphas right now. I need to go find an alpha. Or, hey, I need a brain. I need a real brainy guy. Okay, I need to go find a brain. So there's all these different attributes that come in when you're looking to put together a group, and I like to recruit diversity. I like to get guys from East Coast, West Coast, city boys, country boys. I think you got to have a little bit of everything, and that kind of puts those natural barriers of communication down where it's like, okay, we're all different, so we better start talking to each other. It's not just like, hey, we're all country boys, we're all city boys, And so I think all of that goes into it. I know maybe people don't think about it. You just want the highest star you can get or whatever. But, I mean, to me, the personality fit in our room is more important than anything just because of how connected we got to be.
No, you haven't really ironed out who's starting and who isn't. But last year when you look at the backup offensive lines, you kind of mentioned, you really just see like one future potential starter in Kobe Branham.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, you've got – Bubba Craig's a young guy, and Kavion's a young guy. I was wondering if you could talk about maybe those guys specifically, and just also having built a little bit of a foundation for the future also.
Yeah, so one thing, and I was joking with you last year, Trey, after you put that article, like, hey, they're screwed next year. I think Trey put out an article and said, what in the world will they do next year? And we hadn't even played a game yet. So I was like, cool, Trey, good article. And but my point is, that was intentional to go get portal guys that were young. Like finding redshirt freshmen and Shaq and Kavion in the portal, that was on purpose. Because I knew we had to go get a vet left tackle or just the best left tackle we could get. And then it was like, okay, let's get a vet here, a vet center, but hey, let me get a young tackle, all right, who's early in his career that can play behind Corey Robinson and develop and learn the game from him. So, again, it just kind of goes back to everything was intentional with what we targeted. It wasn't just like, hey, throw the net out wide and just hope you get 4 or 5 guys, right? I wouldn't have taken Bubba Craig if he only had 2 years left, but he had 3, so I took him. So all that goes into it when you're deciding how that room's going to be built up.
Good stuff there from Eric Mateos. Always entertaining. I was excited, looking forward to this day. It's like the only time we'll get a chance to talk to him, right? So I was looking forward to talking with Eric Mateos today. All right, depth chart. No big mystery at quarterback. Taylor Green, KJ Jackson. I guess there's maybe a mystery on the third. I think probably Trevor Jackson, but it could also be Grayson. It's very close. Arm strength-wise, I think it's probably Taylor Green, KJ Jackson, Grayson Wilson, Trevor Jackson, probably in that order based on what I've watched at practice, just watching them throw the same pass over and over again. Who has a little bit more velocity, who throws it more on a line, who can throw it farther, all those kinds of things. That's kind of the order in that order. Running back, we could see Mike Washington. We could see Braylon Russell. There's been a lot of talk about Mike Washington because he does put up ridiculous offseason numbers in terms of speed and strength and leaping. And Braylon Russell doesn't put up the same numbers. But we can't forget, like, when Braylon Russell's rolling, like, he's really good. And he is a load. He will snap your neck back. So I think we could see very much a combination of those two guys. I'm interested to see exactly how it shakes out. Mike Washington had a tremendous offseason. And, you talk about the wins in the offseason, competing against people, acquiring points. I'm not sure what the formula is for all that. But Mike Washington is he's a stud now. He is. But it'll be interesting to see. After those two guys, it's anybody's guess. It could be Rodney Hill, depending on the situation. It could be A.J. Green, depending on the situation. Cam Settle's done some good things, too. Fullbacks, Maddox Lassiter, Kyle Thompson, when they go to a 21 personnel look. I think Omega Blake, this is where it gets difficult, too, still. Omega Blake at one spot, Raylan Sharp in the slot, and then who knows? It's been C.J. Brown a whole lot. Could be Monte Harrison. Antonio Jordan is definitely a possibility. He's a guy they really like. Do they like him for now? Do they like him for the future? Jaylen Brown, is another guy with a lot of speed. I think Omega Blake, C.J. Brown, and Raylan Sharp probably day one. The spot that I would say is up for grabs is that spot where I mentioned CJ. I think there could be, again, Jaylen Brown, Antonio Jordan, Monte Harris. It could be a lot of different guys there at that spot. I also like Ja'Caden Ferguson a lot from the freshman class. Inside receiver, Raylan Sharp. I don't think there's any doubt there. Cam Shanks is going to play a lot too. He may not start, but Cam Shanks will play a lot. There could be packages. I think there absolutely be times where you see Raylan Sharp and Cam Shanks on the field at the same time. By the way, shout out to Cam Shanks. The Sporting News named him first team preseason All-American punt returner. And Taylor Green was one of 35 quarterbacks today to be named to the Davey O'Brien National Quarterback of the Year award watch list. So pretty cool. Tight end, no question. Rohan Jones is the starter there. And then I think maybe we see Jaden Platt. We could see Andreas Poshka early and then eventually kind of morph more into seeing Jaden Platt out there just because he has more potential as a weapon in the passing game. And he also has a lot of size. I think maybe his ceiling is a little higher because of all that. Left tackle for Corey Robinson, no question. Marcus Dumerville's been backing him up. Fernando Carmona at left guard. Blake Cherry today was with the second group at left guard. Again, don't read too much into that, but they really like Blake Cherry. Brooks Edmondson, Cash Courtney was with the second group. I think we're going to see Cash Courtney elevate a little bit. Caden Kittler, as Mateos has said today, he's been a little bit banged up, but you're going to see Caden Kittler as the starter without a doubt. And then I think maybe you start seeing a little bit of battle between Brooks Edmondson and Cash Courtney. They were really high on Cash Courtney. And we could see maybe Courtney, depending on how things shake out next year, Kittler's just a junior, so Kittler would be back. You could see Cash Courtney maybe playing guard for a season or something and then moving to center. I mentioned Kobe Branham thinks he'll be a 4-year starter at Arkansas. Kobe Branham was rolling with the right guard. I think Kobe ends up winning that spot. He's done that the last couple of days, not just in fastball, but when we've seen them just line up, it's been Kobe Branham and Keyshawn Blackstock behind him right now. And then right tackle, you've got Amarian Harris. I still think Shaq McCroy, when it's all said and done, we're going to see Shaq McCroy move into the starting right tackle spot. And then I think Amarian will be kind of a guy that, fills in where needed. If you have an injury or something, you turn to Amarian Harris. I think that's how it's going to turn out. Shaq he looks good. I mean, he's just so big. Like, he is just – even Kobe Branham today, I was talking about, like, you guys usually feel like you're the biggest guy in the room. And then what do you think when Shaq McCroy walked in? And Kobe says, like, when he shakes your hand, he just swallows your hand. And that's Kobe Branham, who's 6'5", 326. I mean, that's wild. I can remember Zach Tubbs. You guys remember him? He was from Alabama. But he was big, like 6'7", 3, I don't know, 40. I don't know. He was a big dude. But he wouldn't even think about it. Like, I'd shake Zach Tubbs' hand. He had those big offensive line gloves on, and he would just wrap like that. Not even consider me, but just go ahead and wrap his whole hand around my hand like that. I'm a little over 6 foot. I've got pretty big hands for my size. But it'll make you feel small when one of those dudes grab your hand. I promise you that. I'll be sure to shake Shaq's hand next time I see him. All right, defense. Quincy Rhodes, without a doubt, 6'6", 275. A lot of talk today about Justice Boone, which was good to hear from the offensive line when asking what players stand out. So maybe it's going to be Justice Boone. Maybe he'll be the starter at the other end. Phillip Lee's a possibility. Charlie Collins is a possibility. Both those guys have seen some first-team reps. I don't know on Frank Mulipola just yet. He is at end. Today he was at end, but he's a guy that they think maybe could go inside, outside. I haven't seen enough for me to say one way or the other. I've said before, defensive tackle I think are going to be okay. Cameron Ball and Ian Gerard were the starters today. I think it's going to end up being Cam Ball and Danny Saili. Big surprise. Everybody knows I'm high on what Saili has done. David Oakey also in that mix on the second group, I think. So Ian Gerard, David Oakey in the second group. And then who's the fifth? Is it Mulipola? I don't know. I don't know if I like him as a defensive tackle. I think I see him more of a defensive end with his body type. I'll tell you who looks good is Reginald Vaughn. Reginald Vaughn's a good-looking kid. He's listed 6'2", 305-ish, something like that. True freshman. He's the biggest out of those three freshman defensive tackles, though. He's the biggest one. I think he's got a future, long arms, too. Listed at 6'2", which is shorter than Caleb Bell, who's 6'3", who he looks the same height as, but taller than Kevin Otis, who is listed at 6'2", who I think is maybe more like 6'1". Sometimes you can't tell on these measurements. Maybe they sneak in a little tippy-toe action sometimes. You know what I mean? When they're getting measured. MAC linebacker, Steven Dix. Money linebacker, Xavier Sori. Those are your two starters of that question. Your next guy, wherever he is Bradley Shaw. Whether they go to a 3-3-5 and he's in there, whether he's the top rotational backup at both spots. They've been working Wyatt Simmons and Trent Whalen a lot with that second group also. A lot of those guys. We've also seen Tavian Wallace a good bit, who's just a freshman. So a lot of mixing up there. Safety, they had Caleb Wooden with the first group today. I think it's going to end up being Miguel Mitchell and Larry Worth. I am almost certain of that. And I think Caleb Wooden is going to be your top rotational guy, along with Quintavious Scandrett, who's 6'3", 210, got good size. So maybe one of those guys at field, one of those guys at boundary. Hog was Jordan Young. Shakir Smalls was his backup. That's been pretty consistent throughout all the practices so far with Jordan Young starting. And then cornerback is really up for grabs. It's going to be some combination: Kenai Walker, Selman Bridges, Keyshawn Davila, Jaheim Singletary. Am I leaving somebody out? Kenai. So Jordan Young's more of a nickel. Kenai Walker, Jaheim Singletary, Keyshawn Davila, Selman Bridges. Yeah, I think those are your top four corners in some kind of order. If I had to guess right now, I'd go Selman Bridges. Oh, Julian Neal. That's who I'm leaving out. That's who I would pick, number one. So Julian Neal at one spot and Selman Bridges at the other. And then I think Kenai Walker would be the top rotational guy. But I really like Keyshawn Davila. I just, when I'm looking at it, I'm trying to break all it down, like what separates these guys. And I'm looking at Keyshawn, I'm like, he's only 165. But he will put his nose in there, man. I mean, he will. But that's like if I'm looking for a way to separate them. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. That's what I think. I think I need to go get some new clothes, and the place to go is Walker Brothers. If you guys haven't been to Walker Brothers, where are you shopping? Where are you shopping in Northwest Arkansas if you're not going to Walker Brothers? Because let me tell you, it's by far and away the best men's store out there. By far and away. I've been going there for years and years and years. I'm a big fan of Faraday. They got a lot of Faraday stuff. I've mentioned before, I'm like large, extra large, somewhere in between on a lot of brands, and I just kind of fit right in there. Peter Millar is another great one. Think about Faraday, Peter Millar, like they may be a little bit pricier, but they last. I mean, I've got some Faraday stuff that I've had for years and years and years, and my Peter Millar stuff would be good if I hadn't ruined a couple of shirts with this new sunblock that I started using that messed up the collar. So don't be careful on your sunblock with any shirt, but I got to stop by there. I haven't had a chance yet because everything's been so busy, but they've got a new store in Rogers, 3503. I heard it's massive, South 55th Street, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101. I heard it's a huge store. They've always been in Fayetteville for a number, as long as I can remember. They're at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6. That's the one that I frequent a lot. They got all the Curly Tail and Crazy Hog logos on brands like Peter Millar, Johnny O, Horn Legend, Divot Sportswear. One of the things they're doing now is called the Freshman Experience. It's like basically like you're in college, it's time to start dressing like a grown-up. They got different packages where they'll outfit you with, like a sports jacket and some loafers and some pants and some shirts and stuff. That, a package called the starter, a little more stuff called the classic, and then like the full deal is the legend, and they'll outfit with you with all that stuff. And I don't think it's just for freshmen. I don't think that's the only people that it's for. I think it's for anybody who probably should start dressing more like their age. You know who I'm talking to. We got a lot of people not dressing their age these days. So they've got some stuff for men, and kids. I mean, it's not like just men, but I would say that's the focus. That's where I go. I don't know where else you go aside from Walker Brothers. So, and now they got a location in Rogers. So, people I know, people I trust personally. I've known the Coles for a long, long time. All right, questions. I thought we might play some more videos today. Before we do that,
It's a fine barbecue, Joe.
My own secret recipe.
Where's Super Sid? I got him on the FaceTime.
Where you at, Sid?
Hey, I'm in Milwaukee at the Bucks game.
How are they playing?
They're pretty good. They just need to get healthy.
Speaking of playing, what's shaking and bet Saracen?
Oh, great offers, Pat. Like for new players to bet Saracen, they'll get $125 to use for new bets.
Gotta love Bet Saracen.
okay, so let's get to some questions. I'm going to play some videos from practice while I answer these so you guys can check out some of the stuff that went on today at practice. All right. Test. Still working on audio. So Hogballs69, great name. Nice. Says he's been with us 59 months, 5,332 posts. You thinking we're going to hit the under 5.5? I was asked if I had to put money, I had to put $1,000 on Bet Saracen. If I had to do it right now and had no choice on whether they hit 5.5 over or under, what would I do? And I said under. I don't like that pick, but I just know, like, as much as I look out there, as you guys can see, it's a big team. They got some athletes. They got some veterans. I just know that everybody else has that, and the schedule's so brutal. And the thing of it is, I don't think that they're going to win 5. I was talking to somebody today. I was like, what do you think? Somebody that I respect, in the media. And I was like, what do you think? And he's like, I'm thinking like 5 wins. And I'm just thinking, like, last time they won 5 games in a season was 2008. That's the only time in SEC play that they've won 5 games. So I think they're either going to win 4 games or 8 games. And that may sound crazy, but I just think it depends on how things start. They get off to a bumpy start, then you lose that momentum, you lose that belief and all of those things that can come along with it, a little locker room toxicity and stuff. Things can tank quick. So you could start, and it's so tough at the beginning of the season. That's what has me saying that. 4 wins or things go well. They go off to Oxford and knock off Ole Miss. How are you not up for that game? How you not get up for Ole Miss when they took a bunch of your players from last year? One of the reasons your 2023 recruiting class is decimated because you got a lot of guys going over to Ole Miss. Jalen Braxton, Luke Haas, and Patrick Kudus. They took Pooh Paul last year, a guy who was going to be a leader for you. How are you not going to go to Ole Miss with them having a new starting quarterback who's played some last year, but first-year starter, and give that everything you got? So if you do that, you take care of Alabama A&M, Arkansas State, you go to Oxford and win there. Then you go to Memphis and win there. I mean, like, you could build a little bit of momentum. You could build some belief, some buy-in, while other teams might be struggling and losing that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I think. But anyway, he goes on to say, by you thinking we're going to hit the under 5.5 in total wins, you think this team is worse than last year record-wise? I think the schedule's tougher. I mean, you got to go to Memphis, who's won 11 games last year. Yes, you should win that game, but you got to go at their place, You got to put all you got in the Arkansas State game, and they hadn't played great football in Little Rock for the most part. They did against UAPB, but that was UAPB. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have any weeks to, like, look ahead to the next opponent at all. So, no, I don't. I think they've got a better team, than last year. I think there are fewer holes except for on the defensive line. I think there's a lot of potential for this wide receiver corps. If we look at them right now, I think there's a lot of potential for them. In year 2 of the offense, I think the schedule is so brutal the way it shapes up. I hate this schedule for them. But, somebody's got to throw you a bad pass if you're ever going to make a great catch. Boarhog 58, 110 months, 1,478 posts. The good that bad and the ugly of the first 6 practices. Anything real good we should be excited about? Anything else you would be worried about? I mean, like, it's been great getting to watch practices, but what you're seeing right now, like, is these wide receivers running against no one. There's a lot of that. I watched a lot of that in practice. So it hasn't been as much access as we got to have in the spring, which obviously I expect. But I would say the good, I think Taylor Green looks really good. I think that it's a good-looking team. How about that? Like, good. I think there's a lot of good players out there. The bad, I don't know if there's a great player. I don't know. If you're going to have a playmaker, there he is, number 10. You want him at quarterback. And I think Taylor Green can be a playmaker for you, especially if he stays healthy. I think he can be a difference maker. That's where you want your difference maker if you could pick any other spot. Is there a difference maker at corner? Is there a difference maker at linebacker? I think Xavier Sori. I think Steven Dix could be. I like the way Steven Dix looks a lot. And what about what about Quincy Rose? Is he going to be all SEC type, or is he just going to be an average SEC defensive end? You know what I mean? So that would be the bad. It's like, I don't know that there is a difference maker. There could just be a lot of good players. The ugly, I'm concerned about depth on the defensive line. I was encouraged by what the offensive line said about Justice Boone today. Because if Justice Boone can be a player for him and Quincy Rose can be a player, I like that a lot better. I just worry about the depth there, and that's what I would say is the ugly. Anything real good, should be excited about? Anything else you're worried about? Real good, excited about? I don't think it's a bad wide receiver core. I think they've got a chance to have some players there. Worried about it is just, the defensive line. I've got some more practice clips. Here's part 2. Which is more likely, 2 running backs rush for at least 500 yards or 2 defensive players have at least 10 TFLs? I think you could have both of that happen, but I really think that the 2 running backs going for 500 is a possibility. Yeah, I think that's a legitimate possibility. That's from Ongo Goblogian. I don't even know how to say his. I've never said his name out loud. He's been with us for 61 months. 11,886 posts. One of our best posters on there. Always funny. Likes to take shots at me. Thinks he's funny. I see you. That 11 Do Pig has been with us 88 months, 144 posts. So we got a lot of people that are lurkers, He's been on there a long time. He's only posted 144 times. We got other guys that have been there, Ongo has been there 61 months, and he's got almost 12,000 posts. So there's, people like to use their membership different ways. Give us your crush at every position. That's great. You should post more. You only have 144 posts in 88 months. You should post more. Who looks great and expected to make a push? We already know. Sully at DT. Ha. Yes, I have said Danny Sully. I think he's going to be he's my guy this year. I feel like I pick a guy every year that I think is going to stand. And, Larry Worth could be too. I love what Larry Worth does. Just his physical attributes I think are outstanding. Steven Dix probably doesn't get quite the recognition he deserves, but Steven Dix looks like the guy that you lock in the room, as I mentioned last week, and comes out and just whips everybody's ass, and he's the guy that comes out of the room. That's how he looks to me. He's put together. Offensive line, Shaq McCroy, everybody knows I crush on him. Taylor at quarterback, of course, and Mike Washington at running back, even though Braylon Russell I think Braylon Russell has definitely as equal a chance to be the starter and maybe even outperform him. And wide receiver, I'm going to say I like Omega Blake a lot, but I really like Raylan Sharp. But his demeanor and attitude, he just seems laser focused, just blinders on. Just seems like he'd be the same guy every day. Not that Omega won't be. I feel like Raylan is going to be a guy that's going to bail him out a lot in the slot. Given Pittman's track record of not being able to win big games, the schedule, and the team we have, what is your gut feeling win and loss record? I mean, Arkansas actually performs pretty good against the spread as a team under Pittman. But I'm just not ready. This is from Seabass, kick his ass, 3 hours or 49 months, 626 posts. I'm just not ready to give that prediction yet. I haven't just dove in. I haven't gone through all of Bud Elliott's. I love Bud Elliott's summer school where, they talk to team side experts like me. I hate saying I'm an expert, but I am. Team side experts like me. Look at Steven Dix right there. That dude is yoked up. You're going to tell me you're going to mess with Steven Dix? No way. But I'm just not ready to give it yet. I'm going to go through, listen to the summer school. I usually do this as I go to practice because they're about, 20, 22 minutes long. It takes me roughly that to get to campus, get parked and everything. So once I finish all those, I feel like we'll get closer to giving a prediction. Minnesota Hog, been with us forever. It's just 37 months, but he was with us when we were at Rivals before. Are they going to actually let them tackle in practice since they play tackle football? They will. Pittman lets them tackle. And, I think going back through his research, they didn't have more injuries in tackle than they did when they did non-tackle. They still had injuries in non-tackle stuff. So they'll absolutely let them tackle. They'll scrimmage on Saturday. Unfortunately, it's completely closed to the media. So is the one next Saturday. I don't like that. I think KJ Jackson looks good, Razorback from KC. I think he has done some good things. KJ Jackson has a nice arm. He runs pretty well. Is he going to be the starter next year? Let's see. I think there's still a lot to be determined before we make that call, but he's not a bad-looking option right now. I think that they get in a pinch and they had to put KJ Jackson in, and I think they feel okay about it. So we'll see. But he's got a nice arm. He moves well. He seems to have command of the offense. Seems very steady, personality-wise, and as a practice player, seems very steady. Hogzilla says T-Dog. I've never been called T-Dog. I've been called a lot of things. I haven't had that one. Usually it's just Biddy. Somebody give me a nickname, it's Biddy. T-Dog does Washington's Hogzilla's been with 145 months, 5,936 posts. Does Washington's lack of production at lower levels worry you now that he's leading the room, especially considering trouble with fumbles in the past? I would say it's a lack of – he had 700-something yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns. Lack of production. I don't know. I think that he has a chance to have a really good season based on what I see. I don't know how he was used exactly at New Mexico State or what his limitations were. I expected to see a smaller back than he is. I expected to see a stiffer back, a guy that wasn't really good catcher, and he's been the opposite of all of those things from what I've seen in practice. We'll see. We'll see if he can move a pile. We'll see if he goes down easy. I always say this about running backs. It's the easiest position to evaluate, and I just haven't seen him in live tackle stuff enough. But what I always say about running backs, people get caught up in a guy's quickness, his ability to juke and spin and break tackles that way. What I like in a running back is if people bounce off of him. He's not really even doing anything. He's just running and people are just going down. You know what I mean? That to me is a sign of a guy that is a great tackle breaker. You can't be stiff, obviously, and play in this conference. But if you can break tackles while you're just running and going through the normal course of running the ball, that's what makes a great running back. Look at the greats. I'm not even going to read that, Cody. Cheerleader question. David Crappin. Sometimes when you say these out loud, David Crappin shits. DAVIDKRAPPENSCHITZ. 2 months, 14 posts. By the way, we sold more subscriptions recently than everybody but North Carolina site and the Ole Miss site, which has new sites now. So they just started Tar Heels 24/7 and Rebels 24/7. So proud of that distinction. You can sign up again for basically $5 a month, $60 for the entire year, 50% off HawgSports, HAWGsports.com. Somebody got in the comments yesterday on YouTube and said, like, why even have a chat? Trey didn't even answer questions. Trey won't even answer questions. I do use it for feedback. I appreciate you guys who said the mic sounds good. Appreciate that. But the thing is with the chat is, and I love the chat, and I would go back and I read the chat, obviously, because I saw your comment that I don't answer questions in the chat. It's just that I can go to the Razor's Edge and I can say, hey, give me questions for HawgSports, and they're going to give me questions. And in the chat, a lot of times I'll get, just kind of comments and stuff. Like I appreciate Camo Gang says, Walk and Talk going to be tough this year, Biddler. I got all kinds of nicknames now, I guess. But here's a question from Jeremy Knapp. Trey, how do the DBs and wide receivers look, and the O-line and the D-line? I think I've pretty much given my impression on that, Jeremy. And you say you're just tuning in, but hopefully you can just go back and watch all that, because I do want to get to some new questions. But I don't think that I'm missing, we're getting some pretty good questions over here, and we're getting good questions here. We just, I enjoy the comments. Just a little bit different. We got YouTube and, Facebook, people commenting from both platforms here. Okay. WPS 88, 167 months, 47,072 posts. When is the last time you had some chocolate gravy? So I don't know that I've ever had chocolate gravy. And somebody said I wasn't Southern. I just think maybe it's a little more different kind of Southern. I don't know. I like brown gravy. I like sawmill gravy. I like biscuits and gravy as a breakfast item. That's up there. Like I'm going to pick a Bloody Mary over a mimosa, and I'm going to pick biscuits and gravy over waffles. But I never really, and I've had red eye gravy, which I don't know where red eye gravy's from. I think more of that's maybe a northern thing for some reason in my head. But I don't think I've ever had chocolate gravy. And what do you put chocolate gravy on? Is that something you put on? Is that something you put on a meat or a biscuit or something? Or is that something for a dessert? But Danny West loves chocolate gravy. It's his number one. I don't even know what is it. Is it thin or is it thick? Is it like syrup? Syrup. Michael Hollerhog says, any noticeable improvement or increased consistency with Taylon's footwork and mechanics? I think Taylon's looked pretty good. I have not seen him have this weird off day yet. And I don't think I saw it in the spring. Last spring, like he looked great for the first few practices. Then one day it was just like, whoa, where's he throwing these balls? This doesn't look good, excuse me. But I haven't noticed any real inconsistencies with him this year. I think he has been pretty steady, pretty locked in. So that's a good thing. And speaking of locked in, the Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a new vehicle, the Crain Team service centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. HawgSports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team. Certainly appreciate the folks over at Crain Automotive. They've been great to us, so I want to make sure I give them their love. That opening ad read, I messed it up a little bit, and I want to make sure I do it right for them. All right. Cheese and rice. I thought, by the way, Kevin Bohannon had a good breakdown on some of those things. Mickey Hollerhog asking about Taylor's footworks and mechanics and stuff. Bohannon, I think he played at Rhodes College, smaller school, played baseball and football there. But he did, he was a coach also before he started working with us at HawgSports. But he does some film breakdown stuff based on, some of the practice footage that we put out there. And I think he's going to do some of that throughout the year. So, you can check that out from Kevin. Does a good job. Cheese and Rice says, for 32 months, 1,744 posts. We'd love to hear your ideas around player comps for the wide receiver room. It's a good question. I'd have to give that some thought, cheese and rice. I don't know, like, who would I compare Omega Blake to? Nobody just, like, jumps out in recent memory. Raylan Sharp, I mean, have they had a lot of 5'8" wide receivers here? No. That's difficult. Monte Harrison, I might say, is like, just because of his size, I might say like Boo Williams or something. Remember Boo Williams? He was like 6'4", 235. Ended up playing tight end for the Saints for a number of years. Antonio Jordan, I mean, there hadn't been a lot of 6'6", 235s come through here. Not a lot at all. I mean, I guess maybe some kind of combination of Traylon Burks and Greg Childs in a way. That's certainly high praise for a freshman. That's a difficult question. I don't see, like, I don't look out there and be like, he reminds me just like this guy, you know. Strength and weaknesses, I can tell you, though. Raylan Sharp is steady, route runner, laser-focused type of receiver who's going to do all the things right fundamentally, who has a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he belongs in the SEC and has belonged since he entered college. That's Raylan Sharp. Omega Blake, I really liked Omega Blake, our interview. He seemed kind of locked in too. You know, seems like a very serious individual. Wait, I'm not thinking of Omega Blake. We haven't even talked to Omega Blake yet. Who am I thinking of? Yeah, Omega Blake. Yeah, that was Omega Blake. We talked to him the other day. But yeah, that's kind of the impression, because I asked him, I was like, did you think about wearing number 3 from Omega Blake? And he didn't really think it was for Omega 3. It's like, you missed opportunity for endorsement on, you know, vitamin supplements. But he was like, no, pass. Sometimes you got to say a little joke or, you know, something like that at the start. I try to say something, loosen things up a little bit, you know, because I think a lot of those guys are coming in there for the first time, maybe don't know exactly what to expect or how we're going to be with them. And, you know, the quotes are better and the interview's better if you lighten things up a little bit to start. But Omega Blake's a deep ball guy. He can do other things, but I see him like leading Arkansas in receiving yardage. I see Raylan Sharp leading in catches. Cam Shanks also doing some good things in that department as well. And I think we'll see Antonio Jordan out there. I think they'll give him opportunities here and there, especially his jump ball opportunity. Like, they need something deep or something like that, bomb before halftime. If they ever throw that, if they ever take a shot right before half and don't just tuck it in and take it to the locker room. Does the basketball team take more losses than the football team? Yeah, I think they will. Not that they're going to take a lot, but other than quarterback, what main position group? I mean, I say that. Basketball team's got some dogs on it. I say that, but SEC's tough, you know. I mean, yeah, I think basketball team takes more losses. But I had to think about it. Other than quarterback, what main position groups can we not afford long-term injuries for this season due to depth? Defensive line, particularly defensive end. All right. I think we're going to wrap the show up. We've got pages of questions, so I'll get in here and answer these on the Razor's Edge later on. But the show has hit about 55 minutes now. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Saracen. Thank Crain Automotive and Walker Brothers for their support for the show. As you notice, we didn't have any commercials running through the show, the interspersed YouTube ads we have gone to supporting these local in-state companies, and certainly proud to have them a part of HawgSports and appreciate their support. And appreciate all of you. Sign up at HawgSports for 50% off right now. That breaks down to $60 for the year. Throw us a like, thumbs up, comment on the video. Appreciate everybody for whether you're a subscriber to HawgSports, which you should be if you're a Razorback fan. If you're a diehard fan, you absolutely should be. But if you're not and you just like the free content, you like the HawgSports Live, you like the walk and talk, you like reading our free stuff that comes out of press conferences, you don't need the in-depth information, we certainly appreciate you too. So I just want you all to know that. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next.